Hello everyone, welcome to Snap or Pass. My name's MJ and today we are looking at Hulkling. He's a 6/11. At the start of the game, copy the text of a random 6-cost card. You can use the chapters below if you want to skip to a different section of this video. We're going to be talking about the Spotlight week that Hulkling is in. We're going to be talking about counters, synergies and potential decks, and ultimately whether I think you should get Emperor Hulkling. Let's start off with the Spotlight week that he's in. I'm afraid to say, guys, I am biased. I love Nimrod. Nimrod is a Series 4 card. We've also got Cannonball here, who's a Series 5. You can tell I'm biased because I've given Nimrod a special border in this image. Cannonball is a Series 5 card. Hulkling is obviously a Series 5 card, as all of the new cards are these days. Overall, I think this week is actually quite good. I think quite a lot of people missed out on Cannonball, myself included. So I'm actually rolling this week. I am actually opening caches. Regardless of whether I say there's a snap or pass at the end, stay tuned. I am actually opening, because I am a Nimrod simp. I am a Nimrod fanboy and I want every Nimrod variant. So I have to get the Nimrod variant. I need Cannonball, so I might as well roll on a week where I need 2 cards. And then one of the cards is one of my favourite cards in the game. So overall, and by the way, Cannonball just is a good card. I think it's slightly underrated at the moment. Can be a decent card, especially being generated from Arishem. Don't sleep on that. I had a play this morning where I should have played Cannonball. I didn't, and I lost because of it. So just consider that. That's the Spotlight week. Now let's talk about the mechanics of Emperor Hulkling. There's a lot to discuss here. So let's get into this. Crucially, he copies the text at the start of the game. So this means you can adjust your strategy. If you copy that Galactus, you can bear in mind that for the rest of the game, you're like, oh yeah, I need to keep one location free in case that pans out. We will talk about specific copies you can get and if Galactus is actually good. The copy will be amazing 20% of the time, which is 1 in 5 times, and you'll draw it 75% of the time. So in those occasions, 20% of the time be amazing, and then you'll draw it 75% of the time. Was like 1 in 6 games? Something like that. So 1 in 6 games, Emperor Hulkling will be incredible. Now, is that good? Is that actually good? Because why wouldn't you just play a definitely good 6-cost card instead? Of course, it's just because Hulkling is fun, and there's potential for shenanigans, and it's that side effect. So if you like chaos, if you like fun, if you like randomness, then that's obviously good, isn't it? If you like randomness. Sorry, that was like a if you liked that, get Hulkling. The pros, the good stuff. 14% of the time, the copy is game-winning quality. There's a handful of cards that are absolutely broken beyond all comprehension and will certainly win you the game. So that's something to bear in mind. So it's like, what, 1 in 10 games, basically. Like, take out the times that you don't draw Hulkling. 1 in 10 games, Hulkling will win you the game, which is obviously good. He's got a respectable power. He's a 6/11. And if it copies a good card, it's going to feel great. Like, Hulkling, when he copies a great card and you draw him, he will be a card that feels really good, feels really fun, and generally going to be a good vibes card. And the best thing about him, of course, is that it can create unique and fun and crazy moments. And this is why we play Marvel Snap, right? Why are we playing Marvel Snap? A game with such randomness and stories and nano moments and little bits of gameplay that are so good, so interesting, so fun, different every time. Why are we playing Marvel Snap if not for those moments, hey? However, cons. Chaotically inconsistent. My god. I've spoken about the times where you're going to copy an amazing card. It's going to feel great and it's going to feel, or it's going to create these amazing moments and you're going to feel great. But guys, there's some absolute garbage you can get. Right? 14% of the time it's game winning. 10% of the time it's disastrous. That's nearly the same. Nearly the same amount of time it's absolutely disastrous and either unplayable, literally unplayable, or will pretty much guaranteed lose you the game. Some copies like Galactus will be difficult to synergize or strategize towards. So as I've mentioned this earlier, you are told, or I should say you are shown, the copy that Hulkling has become at the start of the game. But sometimes that's going to be really difficult for you to do anything with. Like, in the case of Galactus, yes, you've got to keep a location free, but in a Galactus deck, you'd be playing stuff like, I mean, maybe Nimrod, maybe Wolverine, maybe X-23, you'd have Eliath in there, you'd have Null in there, you'd have Wave. So in a Galactus deck, you're doing everything towards the game plan of playing Galactus. Whereas if Hulkling just becomes Galactus, you haven't got the rest of that support, and then you have to rely on winning a location with only Hulkling and thus only 11 power, and it's just not even likely that it's going to happen. That's just in the case of Galactus. There's plenty of other cards where the same can be said for them. Heimdall, difficult to synergize towards. Other examples that I can't mention, difficult to synergize towards. Yeah, I'm not too sure on it, guys. But speaking of synergies, I mean, this is kind of this guy's biggest problem. He really doesn't have any. He's a 6/11 who becomes a random card. So in terms of things that, like, what about him is always consistent? Always a 6 cost, always 11 power. There's not really synergies for just 6 cost cards that exists in the game yet. Like, there isn't a card which is like 6 cost cards cost 1 less, or when you play a 6 cost card double its power. Like, there's nothing like that. So it's only the 11 power, which is Scar, right? Scar costs 2 less for each 10 cost card you have in play. So Hulkling theoretically synergizes with Scar, but I mean, then what are you doing? Ramping out Hulkling? Like, none of it really makes sense. And also, this guy just doesn't really have any sort of beneficial locations or anything. Like, I've highlighted a few on screen here. Deep space. If your Hulkling becomes Destroyer, sure, you'll probably be happy that there's deep space. Bar Sinister, that could create weird stuff sometimes, like if you copy Arnim Zola or something. Like, yeah, so there's definitely things that can happen with this guy, but difficult. Let's continue the mechanics though with, I called this section Mo Mechanics, Mo Problems. Like, you know, like Mo Money, Mo like more, isn't it? It's like more, Mo is more. And then I've put cringe because that what I've just said is cringe. So here's a tier list for what Hulkling can copy. As you can see, I've got 4 cards in 1, 4 cards in 2. There's a smattering in 3. A good handful of 4-star cards, a couple of 5s, and 4 6s. Now, I'm actually making a separate video where I'll go in detail into all of these. So check that out. Subscribe if you're new. That'll be coming within the next few days. Or, if you're watching this when Hulkling's already out, that video is already out. But let's just briefly touch upon a few of them. Actually, before I'm also going to address that Reddit comment from Bearded Half Yeti, who says high potential for hellish shenanigans, I suppose. Probably the most interesting thing I've heard about Hulkling, and so one of the deck ideas I've got has been based on Bearded Half Yeti's comment, and it is a hella deck. I think it's complete garbage, and I'm not sure I really agree, but I've made it anyway. Anyway, let's talk about these cards. So, absolutely disastrous. Agatha Harkness. Now, to be fair, we don't actually know if Agatha can be created by Hulkling yet. And we also don't know that if he does copy Agatha, we don't know if he'll actually jump out of the deck at that point. But that is disastrous if that can happen. Destroyer is genuinely straight up disastrous, because literally worse than Destroyer and pretty much unplayable in almost every situation. That is literally, basically makes it a dead draw and completely unplayable. Giganto, you would never play Giganto in a normal deck as a 6/14. So why would you want to have that power on a 6/11? And then Infinite, you're skipping a turn. So those are just complete hot garbage. My 2 stars, I basically am just suggesting that this is where in the section prior we talked about difficult to synergize towards. Galactus, difficult to actually pull off. Tribunal, really bad. Like, you don't want to split your power. Look, Tribunal decks work because you've got double the power. You've got Iron Man in there and stuff, so that doesn't work. Maybe there's a deck that exists for Hulkling which synergize. You get a group of cards which synergize with as many 6-cost cards as possible, and then you do like Hulkling. Like, maybe there's something about that. Certainly I haven't created it, but that's something. I think most cards fit into the middle of the pack, the 3-star, where basically either their effect is not going to be particularly relevant most of the time, like Null. Null is a fine copy that Hulkling can become, because there are locations that destroy cards and stuff, and then you can basically solo, like with the right situation, a Null Hulkling will win you the game, because you tie down one location with that at the end of the game, and then you just need to concentrate on something on one other location. So there'll be situations like that will work. I think generally most of these cards will just be fine, nothing special. I mean, even Eliath is good, but I don't think it's anything above and beyond, because again, we always come back to the point of why wouldn't you just play like if you're happy getting an Eliath copy, why wouldn't you just play Eliath? But then as we move up further and further, we've got my 4-stars. Mockingbird, going to feel great. Generally, Mockingbird's brilliant anyway, and you're often going to have cards that didn't start in your deck, be it from locations or be it from junk your opponent sends across. So that feels really good. Odin and Onslaught are really good because you've pretty much always got an on-reveal in your deck, and you're often going to have an ongoing as well. So those. Now, the really spicy ones, Ultron and Sasquatch, both crazy. Sasquatch is a brilliant card anyway, so getting a Hulkling, it increases the power, and again, it's easy to synergize towards, because actually most decks can certainly play like a couple of cards in any given turn, especially if you draw Hulkling early. You can play some cheap cards out. You can get a Sasquatch Hulkling out on turn like 4 pretty easily, so that's going to be really cool. Ultron is obviously a brilliant card anyway. But the absolute mega ones, Leader is just a win condition. Like, you would just win one location where you're not winning, play it where you're not winning, and like, it's such a big flip. If they play at that location, you've got such a big flip, and if you play it into a location which you've already secured, then they, you know, I don't need to explain this. It's good. Doom, really good. It's like 21 power, outrageous. Zola's going to be so good, because again, you don't even need to do that much. You just play a couple of larger cards in one location, and then you Emperor Hulkling there, and it's almost like a bit like a Doom itself. You're removing that power from that location, yes, but you're adding 11, and then you're adding, let's say it's something like Wiccan, for example, that you played over there. You're adding the Wiccans in the other locations. In fact, in that particular circumstance, you may have fulfilled Wiccan's condition, and you can get Hulkling down on that turn, and then you've got +2. Actually, hang on. Why haven't I made a Wiccan deck with Arnim Zola in? That's a thought. And then Blob is just going to be like a 25 power card. So yeah, there's some game-winning stuff. Now, what about counters? He is 11 power, so it's basically just Shang-Chi. I mean, Spider-Ham can get him, I suppose, but doesn't feel likely. Like, nothing really stops the guy, apart from, you know, if he becomes a copied card, which is an on-reveal. Obviously, you've got your stuff like Cosmo and whatnot. But nothing, he has nothing to counter, so it is only Shang-Chi. Now, let's move over to the key synergies and the deck ideas that I've got for you. I think a couple of these decks are pretty fun. I think one of them is absolutely hot. Dog, garbage, fecal, water, matter, sewage. So I wouldn't play the Hella one, but I'll talk about it anyway. And this is a very unique situation where I literally only have one synergy. I think I may have done Snapple passes before where we haven't had... I try to always do 6. Highlight 6 cards that are synergized. And I think we may have had 1 or 2 Snapple pass videos which had less than 6. But I certainly believe this is the first time we've only had 1 synergy. Because, as we said earlier, just like there's nothing about him that works with anything. Like, he's not reliable, right? So let me know if I'm missing something, but I do only think it's Scar. And even then, it's not a good synergy because you'd need to ramp Hulkling out. Maybe there's a ramp deck that gets Hulkling out earlier. Maybe that's what we look at with our Wings and Big Things deck. But let's come to that second, because I think actually the most fun you can have with this guy is going to be in the Chaos and the Random style decks. So this deck is called Court of Chaos. We've basically got every card which does something weird, random, or generative and that sort of thing. So we've got Agent 13, a really crazy card that can generate anything. Nico, like a Swiss Army knife. Pixie is going to mix up the cost of everything in your deck. We don't have Mobius. You can certainly stick Mobius in if you want to make sure that Pixie doesn't increase the cost of cheap cards. You don't want to do that. Then we got Scarlet Witch. Can create some fun and interesting situations. Valentina herself is going to create some interesting 6-cost cards, as sort of Hulkling is himself. We got Baron Zemo. We're going to pull random stuff out of their deck. Morph. Very fun card. Morph, a vaguely similar card to Emperor Hulkling himself in many ways. We've got Agent Coulson for the more randomness. Then we've got Legion, Cersei, Magneto, we're pulling random stuff, and obviously Hulkling. So this truly will be a completely random experience, and something different is going to happen to you every single time. So I think that's cool, and I would love to do this. I don't actually have Cersei myself, but I can get close to this deck. So I think maybe... I don't know what I'd stick in instead of Cersei, actually. I guess it would maybe be Mobius, but I'm definitely going to play this style of deck. I think that's going to be fun and crazy at the very least. Now, a second deck idea I've got for you is Wings and Big Tings. So this is basically honing in on the Scar and Emperor Hulkling synergy and trying to get Hulkling out a turn early. We have got Psylocke and Hope as some ramp options here because we want to get that Emperor Hulkling out. But you also have other cards that you just have high power and you want out early as well. So we've got our early 10 power 4 costs, Cull Obsidian and Crossbones. Because we've got those two, we want either priority or to be winning any given location. So because of that, we've got Martyr and Squirrel Girl. We've also got Maria Hill in here to try and help out our curve a little bit. Mysterio is going to help out the Mockingbird. All of these things are hopefully going to help out Sasquatch. And as I said, we've got Hope. So we've got ways to really ramp out cards. And the cards really... most of this stuff actually discounts itself in cost. You've got Scar, Mockingbird and Sasquatch that can all come down in cost. So that's really why we're trying to ramp out Hulkling in this particular deck. And this might work. It certainly might be alright. I mean, you've got reliable combos in here like Squirrel Girl, Mysterio into Mockingbird that are just extremely powerful anyway. And adding in a little sort of, what do they call it? Ace in the hole? A Trojan horse, hidden weapon of Hulkling that can become something crazy and interesting. Maybe that will actually feel particularly good in a deck like this where, yeah, sure, stuff can be Shang-Chi'd, but you've already got so many high power cards that they're not going to have multiple Shang-Chi. Well, they might. Some decks could do like Moon Girl or Grandmaster or whatever, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let's move on to Weird Hella. I genuinely think this is one of the worst. I actually think this may be the worst deck I've ever featured in a Snap or Pass. You've got Invisible Woman for turn 2. Literally nothing else. So you better hope that you pull her. You've got Crystal and Magic to gain the consistency because you want to draw Hela. You've got Modok, which you're going to be playing behind your Invisible Woman hidden until the end of the game. And then the rest of it is just chaos nonsense. I mean, you might be in situations where you can just play out Modok because you've got Helicarrier in the deck. And you just rely on doing random weird stuff that way. And then heck, maybe you didn't draw your Hela by that point, and you can draw into Hela if you have enough time to do so after Helicarrier fills your hand. And maybe there'll be some weird fun routes there. And otherwise, just the absolute shenanigans of Hulkling copying something interesting and coming down. Maybe that'll be good. He can't even be shanged, actually, because Hela will turn him into a 9 power card. So it's sort of perfect in a way. In a way, it's sort of perfect. That is not how I describe this deck, to be honest, guys. But Hulkling, Emperor Hulkling, is he a snap or pass? He's an absolute hot pass for me. Absolute hot pass. Now, like I said earlier, I am actually getting him. I am actually rolling keys this week. Because, look, guys, I'm doing it for the Nimrod and the Cannonball, basically. And because, generally speaking, if there's a week where I need 2 cards, I will pretty much always open keys that week. But yeah, Emperor Hulkling ain't the one. The bottom line is, why wouldn't you just play a good card instead? It comes down to that. Yes, I do think he'll be fun. I actually will be playing him plenty. I love the artwork. I think he's going to look sick with a neon green border, and I think he's going to create those fun situations, and every so often he is going to be game winning. So that's why I will be playing him. But I like random chaos, guys. I do not think that Hulkling is actually a good and competitive card. May I be proven wrong? I hope so. But that's my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe. Oh yeah, actually, I should have put this earlier in the video, but I need to have a word with you guys. Only like 20% of you will be watching by now. Probably 20% and dwindling will be watching by this point anyway. Probably far less. But like, guys, I got like absolutely masses of return viewers who haven't subscribed. So yeah, do subscribe. If you're coming back, it means you want more. Right? Don't fight those urges. Subscribe. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Cheers.